The crystalline palace of Stellaria shimmered with the light of 1,000 dying stars. Queen Valeria stood motionless before the cosmic observatory, her iridescent skin catching the starlight as she gazed into the depths of space. Her 700-year reign had brought prosperity to her people, but emptiness to her heart. "You found him, haven't you?" The voice of Theron, her most trusted advisor, broke through her reverie. Valeria's fingers traced the holographic image projected before her, a human man with dark hair and eyes that held the same intensity she had memorized centuries ago. "Yes," she whispered. "After all this time, Adrian's soul lives again. His name is Marcus Blackwood now, Your Majesty. A scientist on Earth. But you know the laws of our people. The cosmic balance. I've upheld every law, preserved every tradition for 7 centuries, Valeria interrupted, her voice steady despite the storm within. I've given everything to Stellaria. This one thing, I take for myself." The memory of Adrian's death still haunted her, the human warrior who had crashed on their planet during Earth's first interstellar expedition. While repairing his ship, they had fallen desperately in love, but his fragile human body aged while hers remained timeless. His last words to her, a promise to find her again across time, had sustained her through the lonely centuries. "The Council won't approve," Theron warned. "They'll say it's the delirium of longing. That you're fabricating a connection to escape your duties." Valeria turned, her silver eyes flashing. "Then I won't seek their approval. Prepare the quantum vessel. Tell no one." 3 Earth months later, Valeria stood on a crowded sidewalk in Boston, her alien features concealed by advanced biotechnology. Her skin now appeared peach instead of opalescent blue, her luminous silver eyes darkened to hazel, and her towering height reduced to human proportions. The observatory loomed before her, where Marcus Blackwood worked late every night, mapping the stars. Stars she had visited, worlds she had ruled, all unknown to the humans who studied them with such fascination. "Excuse me," a deep voice said as someone bumped into her, sending a shock through her modified nervous system. Valeria froze. Though the face was slightly different, younger, with a scar across his left eyebrow that Adrian hadn't had, the eyes were unmistakable. Those eyes had once looked at her with such love that even her extended lifespan couldn't diminish the memory. "I'm so sorry," Marcus said, smiling apologetically. "Wasn't watching where I was going." "It's quite all right," she managed, her carefully practiced English nearly failing her. He extended his hand. "Marcus Blackwood. Are you here for the lecture?" The touch of his skin against hers sent visions cascading through her mind, memories of their past, glimpses of possible futures. But his eyes showed no recognition, only polite interest. "Valeria," she replied, omitting the royal title and 27 additional names. "I'm new to the city. I've always been fascinated by the stars." "Well, you've come to the right place. I'm giving a talk on exoplanetary atmospheres tonight. Though I suspect you already know quite a bit about the subject." He tilted his head, studying her with curiosity. "Strange, but I feel like we've met before." Valeria's heart leaped. "Perhaps in another life," she said softly. Marcus laughed. "I'm not usually one for mysticism, but—" He shook his head. "Would you like to get coffee sometime? I could tell you about our research." As she agreed, Valeria felt the weight of centuries lifting. She had found him again, as he had promised. Now she only had to make him remember. Marcus Blackwood's office resembled a blend of modern technology and ancient wisdom, star charts and celestial maps adorning walls alongside cutting-edge holographic displays. Valeria sat across from him, watching as he enthusiastically explained his research on atmospheric anomalies in distant solar systems. "The patterns we've detected in the Cygnus constellation simply don't align with natural formation theories," he explained, running a hand through his disheveled dark hair. "It's almost as if As if someone designed them that way, Valeria finished quietly. Marcus stared at her, his coffee forgotten. Exactly. How did you know I was going to say that? She smiled enigmatically. Just a feeling. 3 weeks had passed since their first meeting, and they'd fallen into a comfortable routine. Afternoon coffees had evolved into dinners, long walks through the city, and increasingly personal conversations. For Valeria, every moment was both exquisite joy and exquisite torture, being so close to the soul she'd loved for centuries, yet being treated as a stranger. You know, I've told you practically my entire life story, Marcus said, leaning back in his chair. But you remain quite the mystery, Valeria. You appear out of nowhere, seem to understand complex astrophysics without any formal training, and sometimes. He hesitated. Sometimes, she prompted. Sometimes you look at me like you're seeing someone else. Valeria's breath caught. Perhaps I am, she whispered, then quickly recovered. I mean, you remind me of someone I once knew. That night, Marcus dreamed of strange worlds and alien skies. He woke with a jolt, his heart racing, the name Adrian on his lips though he knew no one by that name. The dreams continued in the following nights, fragments of memories that couldn't possibly be his own, standing on crystalline shores beneath twin moons, holding hands with a woman whose skin shimmered like opals, pledging eternal love as his body failed him. I think I'm losing my mind, he confessed to Valeria as they walked through the Boston Common a week later. Autumn leaves crunched beneath their feet, and the chill air flushed his cheeks. These dreams feel more like memories, but they can't be real. Valeria remained silent, her disguised form tense with anticipation. There's a woman in them, he continued, with silver eyes and blue skin. We're on another planet, I think. And I'm dying. He laughed nervously. Pretty ridiculous, huh? Not ridiculous at all, she said carefully. Many cultures believe dreams can be windows to other lives. Marcus frowned. I'm a scientist, Valeria. I don't believe in past lives or reincarnation. What about parallel universes? Quantum entanglement of consciousness? Those are scientific concepts, are they not? She stopped walking and faced him directly. What if I told you those dreams might be real? Before he could respond, a soft beeping emanated from the small pendant Valeria wore, a communication device disguised as Earth jewelry. Her face paled. What's wrong? Marcus asked. I need to go, she said abruptly. I'm sorry. Alone in her small apartment, Valeria activated the quantum communicator. Theron's holographic form materialized before her, his expression grave. The Council has discovered your absence, Your Majesty. They've sent trackers to Earth. They know about Marcus. How long do I have? Days, perhaps. They believe you've abandoned your duties because of a delusion. They'll bring you back by force if necessary. After Theron's image faded, Valeria stood motionless, weighing her options. She could return to Stellaria willingly, resuming her royal duties and leaving Marcus to his human life, never knowing who he truly was. Or she could stay and risk interplanetary conflict. Her decision was interrupted by an urgent knocking at her door. She opened it to find Marcus standing there, rain-soaked and breathless. I remembered something, he said without preamble. In my dream tonight, she called me Adrian. And I called her. His eyes widened as he truly looked at her, seeing past the human disguise for the first time. Valeria. I called her Valeria. She felt her biotechnological camouflage flickering as her emotions surged. For just a moment, her true form shimmered through, alien and beautiful, before stabilizing back to human appearance. Marcus stumbled backward. Who are you? What are you? I am who I've always been, she said softly. The question is, Marcus Blackwood, who are you? Show me, Marcus demanded, his voice unsteady but resolute as he stood in Valeria's apartment. "Show me who you really are." Valeria hesitated, her fingers hovering over the biocamouflage controls embedded in her wrist. "Once I do this, there's no going back. Your perception of reality will change forever." "It already has," he whispered. With a deep breath, she deactivated her disguise. The transformation rippled across her body like water, her skin shifting from human beige to iridescent blue with subtle patterns that seemed to pulse with her heartbeat. Her eyes brightened to luminous silver, her features sharpening elegantly, and she grew several inches taller until she stood before him in her true Stellarian form. Marcus staggered back, his face a mixture of awe and recognition. "I've seen you," he breathed. "Not just in dreams, I've known you." "Yes," she confirmed. "In another life, another time, you were Adrian Ray, commander of Earth's first deep space expedition. Your ship was damaged passing through the quantum barrier near Stellaria. I found you." Her voice softened with the memory. "We had 2 years together before your human body failed." Marcus sank onto her couch, overwhelmed. "This is impossible. Reincarnation isn't scientifically viable. Consciousness can't transfer between." "Your science has limits," Valeria interrupted gently. "Stellarians understand that consciousness is not contained within the brain but exists as a quantum pattern across dimensions. Adrian promised he would find a way back to me. And now, centuries later, here you are, the same soul, a different vessel." In the days that followed, Marcus experienced increasingly vivid flashbacks, memories of his life as Adrian flooding his consciousness. The first time he'd seen Stellaria's crystal cities. Learning Valeria's language. The agony of realizing he was aging while she remained unchanged. Their desperate search for a solution. "We tried to find a way," Marcus said one evening as they sat beneath the stars on his apartment roof. "I remember now, we worked on a genetic modification to make me compatible with your physiology." Valeria nodded sadly. "It failed. Your body rejected the changes. But I promised I'd return," he murmured, reaching for her hand. The touch sent electric currents through both of them, memories aligning and resonating between their connected consciousnesses. As Marcus's past life memories solidified, so did his feelings for Valeria. What had begun as fascination transformed into something deeper, an echo of ancient love reawakening. When they kissed for the first time in this lifetime, the stars above them seemed to pulse in rhythm with their hearts. But their rediscovered happiness was short-lived. 3 Stellarian scout ships entered Earth's atmosphere under cover of darkness, registered as meteor showers by human observatories. Valeria's pendant beeped urgently in the middle of the night as they lay wrapped in each other's arms. "They're here," she said grimly, activating the communication device. Theron's holographic image appeared, his expression dire. "Your Majesty, the Council has issued the final decree. You are to return immediately or they will initiate the severance protocol." Marcus sat up. "What's the severance protocol?" Valeria's face paled to a lighter blue. "A quantum separation that would permanently prevent any particle of my being from existing in the same dimension as you. We would never be able to see or touch each other again, not in this lifetime or any other." "There must be another way," Marcus insisted. "There is one possibility," Theron said reluctantly. "The ancient texts speak of the convergence ceremony, a ritual that can bind 2 souls across dimensional barriers. But it's never been attempted between species, and the risks are substantial." "What risks?" Marcus demanded. "Complete atomic dispersal if the quantum harmonies don't align," Valeria answered. "Both of us would cease to exist in any form." Before they could discuss further, a blinding light flooded the apartment as a Stellarian ship hovered outside the window. The pendant emitted a high-pitched whine. "They're initiating a forced extraction," Valeria gasped, clutching Marcus. "They're taking me back." Marcus held her tightly as a beam of light began to materialize around her form. "I lost you once," he said fiercely. "I won't lose you again." Making a split-second decision, he grabbed the pendant from her neck and jumped directly into the extraction beam with her. Their molecules intertwined as the beam pulled them upward toward the hovering ship, their atoms beginning the dangerous process of quantum teleportation to a vessel designed only for Stellarian physiology. The last thing Marcus saw before consciousness faded was Valeria's silver eyes wide with fear and love, and then they were both engulfed in blinding light, their fate uncertain as Earth fell away beneath them. Marcus regained consciousness slowly, his vision blurring into focus on an unfamiliar ceiling that seemed to be made of living crystal. Pain radiated through every cell in his body, the aftereffects of a teleportation system never designed for human physiology. He shouldn't have survived the extraction, a voice said somewhere nearby. His molecular structure should have collapsed entirely. And yet he lives, came Valeria's unmistakable voice. Perhaps this is proof enough of what I've been trying to tell you. Marcus turned his head with effort to see Valeria standing regally in full Stellarian ceremonial attire, a flowing garment that seemed woven from starlight itself, her royal markings glowing prominently across her blue skin. She stood before three imposing figures seated on crystalline thrones, the Stellarian High Council. "Your Majesty," spoke the central figure, an ancient Stellarian with skin that had faded to pale azure with age, "your infatuation with this human has compromised your judgment and endangered our people. The cosmic balance must be maintained." "High Counselor Zenith," Valeria replied with steel in her voice, "I have served Stellaria faithfully for 7 centuries. I have never once neglected my duties. But this man's soul is quantumly entangled with mine across time itself. There is no cosmic law against such a connection." Marcus attempted to sit up, drawing all eyes to him. "I can speak for myself," he managed, though each word sent spasms of pain through his chest. "My name was once Adrian Ray. I loved Valeria centuries ago, and I love her now as Marcus Blackwood. This isn't infatuation, it's the continuation of something that transcends your understanding of time." The female counselor to the right studied him with calculating silver eyes. "Impossible. Human consciousness cannot retain quantum coherence through death and rebirth." "Then explain my memories," Marcus challenged. "Explain how I know that the royal palace has 17 spires representing the original founding families of Stellaria. How I know that your sacred text, the Astral Codex, begins with the phrase, 'From stardust we emerged, to stardust we shall return.' How I know that Valeria has a birthmark shaped like your smallest moon on her left shoulder." The council members exchanged troubled glances. "Even if what you say is true," said the third counselor, "it changes nothing. The law remains. No Stellarian ruler may form a permanent bond with a species whose lifespan is less than 1/10 of our own. The psychological damage to our people would be catastrophic when they witness their queen in perpetual cycles of grief." Valeria stepped forward. "Then I will abdicate." A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. "You cannot," Zenith declared. "The crown of stars is bound to your quantum signature. It cannot be transferred until your natural end." "Then we demand the right to undergo the convergence ceremony," Valeria announced. "If our souls are truly compatible across dimensional barriers, we will emerge unified. If not..." She left the dire consequence unspoken. Whispers erupted among the gathered Stellarians who had assembled to witness the proceedings. The convergence ceremony was legendary, spoken of in ancient texts but not performed in living memory. "It would kill him," Counselor Zenith stated flatly. "His human form cannot withstand the quantum realignment." "Let us be the judges of what we can withstand," Marcus said, finally managing to stand beside Valeria despite his pain. He reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining. "We've found each other across centuries. We'll find a way through this too." Before the council could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. Farron burst in, his expression grave. Earth has detected our ships and launched defensive measures, he announced. Their military has mobilized. They believe we've abducted one of their citizens. Which is precisely what you did, Marcus pointed out. The council rose as one. This situation has escalated beyond a personal matter, Zenith declared. We now face potential interplanetary conflict. Valeria, as Queen, you must address this crisis immediately. I will, she agreed, but on my terms. Allow the convergence ceremony, and I will ensure peace between our worlds. Refuse, and I cannot guarantee I will help you at all. The weight of 700 years of authority resonated in her voice. Even the council could not dismiss the ultimatum of a queen who had ruled longer than any of them had lived. After a tense silence, Zenith nodded reluctantly. The ceremony will be prepared. You have until our third moon reaches zenith. But know this, if you both perish in the attempt, our worlds may well descend into war. As the council departed, Marcus pulled Valeria close. What exactly does this ceremony entail? Her silver eyes met his with unwavering determination. We will attempt what no Stellarian and human have ever done, merge our quantum signatures into a singular harmonic frequency that exists across dimensional barriers. If we succeed, neither time nor space nor death itself will ever separate us again. And if we fail? Valeria's voice softened. Then we face oblivion together. But, Marcus, I've waited centuries for you. I would rather face oblivion than lose you to time once more. Outside the crystal windows of the chamber, Earth hung like a blue jewel in the darkness, unaware of the cosmic drama unfolding that would determine not only their fate but potentially the future relationship between two worlds. The ancient ceremonial chamber lay deep beneath Stellaria's surface, carved from a single massive crystal that hummed with quantum energy. Concentric circles of luminescent patterns covered the floor, symbols older than Stellarian civilization itself. In the center stood a raised platform where two crystalline pedestals waited, connected by threads of pure energy that pulsed in rhythmic patterns. Marcus and Valeria stood at the entrance, hands clasped tightly. The three moons of Stellaria aligned overhead, visible through the transparent ceiling, a cosmic timekeeper counting down their remaining moments. The convergence has not been attempted in over 4,000 years, Elder Moira explained as she prepared the sacred elements. Her age-worn blue hands moved with precise grace over ancient instruments. The last successful joining was between two Stellarians. Never has it been attempted with a human. What exactly will happen? Marcus asked, watching as 12 Stellarian officiants took positions around the ceremonial circles. Your quantum signatures, what some might call souls, will be extracted and merged, Moira explained. If compatible, they will form a new singular consciousness that can manifest in both bodies. If incompatible. She paused. Atomic dispersal would be instantaneous. Valeria squeezed his hand. Are you certain, Marcus? There's no returning from this path. He turned to face her, memorizing every iridescent facet of her otherworldly beauty. The memories of his past life as Adrian had fully crystallized now, their first meeting, their forbidden love, his agonizing death as she held him, promising to find her again across the stars. I've crossed centuries to be with you, he said softly. What's one more impossible journey? From an observation gallery, the High Council watched with grave expressions as Marcus and Valeria took their positions on the pedestals. Farron entered hurriedly, approaching Zenith. Earth's defense systems are targeting our position, he reported quietly. They demand the return of their scientist within the hour or they will consider it an act of war. Zenith's ancient face remained impassive. Then let us hope the ceremony succeeds. Either way, the crisis ends tonight. Below, Elder Moira raised her arms, beginning the ancient chant that would initiate the convergence. The crystalline room responded, the patterns on the floor illuminating one by one as her voice resonated with the quantum frequency of the chamber. "Today we witness the joining of souls across the cosmic divide," she intoned. "Valeria of the Stellar Crown and Marcus of Earth seek to transcend the boundaries of species and time." The energy between the pedestals intensified, threads of light wrapping around both participants. Marcus gasped as he felt his consciousness beginning to separate from his physical form, an impossible sensation of being everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. "The quantum extraction begins," Moira announced. "Do not resist the separation." Marcus fought his instinctive panic as his sense of self began to dissolve. Across from him, Valeria's form seemed to shimmer, her own consciousness pulling free from her physical body. Their eyes locked one final time before both closed them, surrendering to the process. In the space between heartbeats, Marcus experienced total dissolution, and then expansion beyond anything comprehensible. He was simultaneously within his body and outside it, perceiving reality from infinite perspectives. He could sense Valeria's consciousness nearby, her essence familiar yet alien, complex beyond human understanding. Their quantum signatures began to approach each other in this dimensionless space. As they touched, memories flowed freely between them, not just of this life or the one they had shared centuries ago, but countless others. They had found each other across millennia, across planets and galaxies, drawn together by a cosmic connection that transcended understanding. In the physical world, witnesses gasped as both bodies began to glow with increasing intensity. The energy connecting them pulsed erratically, then stabilized into a harmonious rhythm. "They're achieving quantum resonance," Moira whispered in disbelief. "It's actually working." The final phase began as their merged consciousness sought to reintegrate with both physical vessels simultaneously. This was the most dangerous moment, where most attempts had failed catastrophically. Within the quantum realm, Marcus and Valeria faced the ultimate choice. Their unified consciousness could not fully return to both bodies without something fundamental changing. "We must evolve," came Valeria's thought within their shared mind. "Neither fully human nor fully stellarian." "Something new entirely," Marcus agreed. "Beyond both our species." With shared purpose, they directed their unified consciousness to rewrite the quantum codes of both physical forms, creating a hybrid state that could house their joined essence. The chamber erupted in blinding light. When it faded, Marcus and Valeria stood on their pedestals, transformed. Both now possessed skin with subtle opalescence, eyes that shifted between human brown and stellarian silver, and an undeniable aura of otherworldly energy. They stepped down from the pedestals in perfect synchronization, their movements mirroring each other exactly. When they spoke, their voices carried identical cadences. "We are one," they said simultaneously. "And yet still ourselves." Elder Moira knelt before them. "The convergence is complete. You have transcended." High Counselor Zenith descended from the observation gallery, approaching with undisguised wonder. "Impossible," he murmured. "You've created a new state of being." "We've recognized what already existed," Marcus replied, his voice carrying echoes of Valeria's. "Souls connected across time cannot be governed by the physical laws of either world." "What happens now?" Theron asked, looking between them with uncertainty. Valeria smiled, reaching for Marcus's hand. "Now we build a bridge between our worlds. Marcus retains his connection to Earth, as I maintain mine to Stellaria. We will serve as ambassadors between species that have more in common than either realizes." "And the crown of stars?" Zenith questioned. "It remains with me," Valeria answered, "but now I rule with greater understanding. I have lived as human and stellarian both. Our perspectives are no longer limited to a single world." In the days that followed, a historic peace was established between Earth and Stellaria. Marcus returned home, changed, yet familiar enough that the diplomatic crisis was resolved. Valeria divided her time between worlds, fulfilling her royal duties while nurturing their unprecedented relationship. Their transformation became legendary across both civilizations, proof that love could transcend not just time and space, but the very definition of existence itself. Their merged consciousness experienced each moment doubly, together even when physically separated by light years. On the one-year anniversary of their convergence, they stood together on the crystalline shores of Stellaria's southern sea, beneath the same twin moons where Adrian had once promised to find his way back to Valeria. Was it worth it? Marcus asked, though he already knew her answer through their shared mind. Waiting all those centuries? Valeria smiled, the silver in her eyes catching the moonlight. I would wait 1,000 more for you. But now, she said, leaning her head against his shoulder, neither of us has to wait again. Above them, the cosmos stretched endlessly, stars being born and dying in the grand cycle of the universe. But for two souls who had found a way to transcend time itself, eternity was now something they would face together, no longer a barrier, but a gift.